So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. Guys, remember to really smash, or not really, but smash the like button on this video, guys. I really need your help, really need your support. Go back and smash the like on all my other videos as well. I really need you guys to start smashing the like button. I know you guys do, but I ask you all the time. Every time on the start of the video, I always ask you guys if you can go and give this like button a smash. It really helps the algorithm, really helps the channel, guys. So go give the video a like and share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And yeah, let's get on with the video. So guys, I want to talk about Gennady Golovkin. I want to go into Gennady Golovkin and talk about his future and talk about what happens if the inevitable happens and he does lose against Canelo Alvarez like we expect him to do. What next? Is it going to be retirement? Is it going to be potential go back down to middleweight? What's Gennady Golovkin going to decide to do? I've been asked, Imran, what do you think Gennady Golovkin will do? Will he retire? Will he go back down? Personally, in my opinion, look, at the end of the day, we don't know what Golovkin's going to do. We don't know what Golovkin's going to decide to do because Golovkin is 40 years of age and he's going to make a big payday against Canelo. And then at the end of the day, he's financially secure after this. He might already be financially secure. You know, he got paid a lot of money for the Murata fight. He had that deal with DAZN. So he's comfortable. Golovkin is in a great position financially, and this Canelo fight is only going to take him over the edge in terms of he's going to be secure and he's going to be made for life. Then it comes down to desire. It comes down to what Gennady Golovkin wants to do. In my opinion, if he beats Canelo Alvarez, he might retire, because then he'll retire as undisputed and he'll retire with what he wanted, all the belts. It might have not been in the division that he wanted it to be, but if he loses, I think the fire will still be there for Golovkin, and I'll tell you why. I think Golovkin will believe that, firstly, this isn't his division at 168. And I wouldn't be surprised, even if he was to win all the belts against Canelo at super middleweight, the fire might still be there to go back down to middleweight, which is his original weight. And as you guys know, Golovkin always said that he wanted to capture all the belts. I feel that narrative changed as he got older, because I feel like he became more reliant on the Canelo fight, the Canelo trilogy, which he's getting in September. But I personally think that he, in my opinion, wanted the belts. He wanted all the belts. I remember when he was unified champion and Canelo was holding on to the WBC, he said, I want all the belts. I don't care about Canelo. I want all the belts. And I think that was his motive earlier on in his career when he was younger. As he got older, he became very reliant on the Canelo fight, because the Canelo fight was going to be the fight that financially secures him. And I think recently, even though I think he's made a lot of money after the two Canelo fights, I think he knew that this fight was going to be a mega fight and a fight that, you know, he wanted really badly. He didn't want to lose because he knew he would lose the Canelo fight. So financially and from a legacy point of view, he wanted the fight. I do think now Golovkin is motivated more by money, but legacy as well, because he knows that he's personally hurt the fact that Canelo got those wins, and he felt he won both of those fights, so he wants to get a get back. So he didn't want to fight anybody that was tough in case he lost to that guy, and then he'll never get the Canelo third fight. So this is why I think Golovkin was also, it wasn't just the finance, because I think Golovkin's made a lot of money now. It's not so much the money, it was more so the fact that I think Golovkin didn't want to lose to anybody, so he wanted to avenge that loss with Canelo. And he knew, if I lose to somebody else, I'm not going to get a Canelo fight. So Golovkin, for me, played it smart. But if after this, look, Golovkin's already said that there's not going to be another fight after this, right? He said it's too expensive. And he's right. He basically said the fight's too expensive. No one's going to be able to pay me and Canelo what we want in order to make this fight again. I think they would if this third fight is a thriller. If this third fight is a thriller, I reckon people would want to see the fourth fight, depending on how this fourth fight goes. If this third fight is controversial again, people would watch it again, just like the Pacquiao-Marquez. They were talking about doing the Pacquiao-Marquez for the 5th time, you know? So this is what I'm saying. It depends on how the fights play out. A lot of people think this time, the reason why a lot of people don't want to see it this time, because Golovkin is 40 years of age and they think Golovkin is done. But if Golovkin shows that he's not done, then there will be appetite for another fight. But if Golovkin was to lose, and that's the likely outcome, if he was to lose and he wasn't to get blown out, there's a chance, in my opinion, Golovkin will go back down and look to become undisputed at middleweight. Because I'll tell you why. The middleweight division is fairly weak. Golovkin has got 2 belts, right? The other belts are held by Charlo. And I don't know what's going on with Andrade. Does Andrade still hold it? That's not going to be held for long because Janabek is on his heels. So Janabek will be the other champion. Now, if Andrade vacates, which I suppose he will, or he'll be stripped or whatever happens, there's a great chance that Golovkin would only have to beat Charlo and Janabek in order to become undisputed. And he'll have all the belts. And let's be brutally honest, would you pick him to beat Janabek and Charlo at this point in his career? I would. I would pick him to beat Charlo, and I would pick him to beat Janabek. So Golovkin might go back down to middleweight because the hunger will still be there, because he would never have been undisputed, and nowadays a lot of people want to become undisputed, and Golovkin might see an opportunity because Golovkin said that retirement will be very difficult and we want the attractive fights. So he goes, so basically Golovkin is saying, I'm not looking to retire after this because retirement's very difficult for me. And retirement's difficult for anybody, but nobody should stay too long because it's a very dangerous sport. Nobody should stay in this sport too long. So Golovkin doesn't want to overstay in case, he wants to live a life. It's no point of having all that money and all that legacy if, you can't put a sentence together, So, and Golovkin's probably got a wife. He's probably got kids, I suppose. So Golovkin needs to leave the sport with all his faculties, So it's very important that, you don't overstay. You don't stay too long, because that, in years to come, will have a lasting effect. So hopefully Golovkin doesn't overstay his time. But what I will say is, I think for me, Gennady Golovkin definitely should consider going back down to middleweight. Depending on how he looks, if he gets blown out of the water, then obviously he's got to consider maybe retirement. If he loses a close fight, a controversial fight to Canelo Alvarez, I think there's a strong case for Gennady Golovkin to go back down to middleweight and look to clean out there. Because I honestly think he would become undisputed at middleweight. I honestly feel Golovkin is still the best guy there. I honestly still feel that. I think Golovkin still has the capability of beating everybody at middleweight, and I just think that would be the cherry on the top. I don't think beating Canelo Alvarez would be the cherry on the top. If he beats Canelo Alvarez, that would be mind-boggling at his age. But the cherry on the top for his wonderful career, because for me, even if he becomes undisputed at super middleweight, he's not a great super middleweight because he's not going to have a long-lasting career at super middleweight. He will only have one fight and he became undisputed, but it would be against Canelo Alvarez, so it would still be phenomenal. However, his middleweight career deserves him to have all the belts, because let's be honest, Golovkin was a beast at middleweight, and he would have beaten every current champion in his prime that's right now. He would have beaten them. So I feel sorry for Golovkin, because I know Golovkin would have done a number on all these guys in Golovkin's prime, but Golovkin didn't get those opportunities in his prime. None of these guys were around in Golovkin's prime. So for me personally, I would love Golovkin, if he doesn't get blown out of the water by Canelo Alvarez, which I don't believe he will. I would love Golovkin to go back down to middleweight and look to become undisputed there. I think it's only right for a man, or at least have the opportunity to. Because let's be brutally honest, Charlo would jump at the opportunity because they all think Golovkin's an old man and they all think that Golovkin's there for the taking. I don't think Golovkin is there for the taking at this point. I still think Golovkin is very dangerous. I still think Golovkin is very good. And I still think Golovkin is capable of beating any champion in the middleweight division, including Andrade and including Charlo. But, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I honestly do believe that Golovkin will take those fights after this Canelo fight, if Golovkin wants to continue fighting, because Golovkin then knows that the Canelo fights aren't going to happen. I'm not going to get another Canelo fight. Then it's just about what's the most attractive fights out there. But for Golovkin, who has 2 belts, he's only 2 belts away, right? There's a good chance if Janabek You know, if Andrade is an easy fight to make because Andrade will be a free agent, and I'm pretty sure Andrade would fight Golovkin in a heartbeat. So maybe that fight could be made right away. You know, maybe the Charlo fight, maybe you know, Golovkin's deal with DAZN runs out after the Canelo fight. Maybe he can go over to PBC and strike a deal there with Jamal Charlo and make that fight. So there's opportunities for Gennady Golovkin. I don't think Gennady Golovkin should leave the sport without trying to become undisputed at middleweight, because the middleweight division right now is fairly weak. It's there for the taking. So Golovkin isn't, and Golovkin is the cash cow. Golovkin is the star in that division. Everybody wants to fight Golovkin because they look at Golovkin as a big fight, big money fight, a big name, and a faded fighter. They look at him as an old man. So Golovkin would have a great opportunity to. It's not like those guys are going to avoid him. Those guys aren't going to avoid him. Those guys are going to want to fight him. You know, so I think there's a good chance that Gennady Golovkin will be able to get those fights. I think Charlo would also take that fight as well, because Charlo, for me, wants the Canelo fight, but Charlo would probably take the Golovkin fight because he probably would think that Golovkin's past his best, and he'll probably think he could beat Golovkin. So I personally think that fight, the Golovkin-Charlo fight, will be a monster fight. I think it would be a stylistically great fight to watch for the fans. And I want to see how good Charlo is as well. That would be a tough fight for Charlo. It'd be a tough fight for Golovkin. So for me, that is the fight. That honestly, for me, is the fight to make. I would love to see it. I actually would love to see Golovkin Andrade, but I think Andrade might move up to 168 now. I don't think we'll see Andrade again. But I definitely think the Golovkin Janabek, if Janabek becomes a champion, or Golovkin Charlo, are great appealing fights. And most importantly, I think Golovkin would feel satisfied if he at least, like, who knows, he may lose to one of them, but at least he'll have the opportunity of trying to do something that he wanted to do it before, you know, because let's be brutally honest, that Golovkin was a very avoided fighter back in the day, you know, and he couldn't get all the belts, but now he can get that opportunity. He's already got 2 belts. There's an opportunity if whoever becomes champion, if Andrade is champion, he can fight Andrade on DAZN. Andrade is a free agent effectively, so I'm pretty sure that he could get that fight, you know, on DAZN. He could also, like I said, he'd have to, in order to get the Charlo fight, you know, he'd have to go over to the PBC, and that'd be a massive fight. Golovkin Charlo would be a huge fight on Fox. If they and Golovkin might have to go over to Fox. There's no way Charlo's going to come over and fight on DAZN. That's just not going to happen. So Golovkin would have to go over to Fox to get that fight. So yeah, I honestly, like, it all depends. When you're 40 years of age, it all depends on how you look. You have to take a fight by fight. You have to take a fight by fight because you're old. You know, Manny Pacquiao the same. When Manny Pacquiao looked great against Thurman, his next fight against Ugas, I know it was a couple years after, but he didn't look so great. He didn't look so great, and then he retired because, you know, at that type of age, you don't know when Father Time's going to come in. You don't know when Father Time's going to creep in and Father Time is going to take over. And Golovkin's at that point in his career where we don't know when Father Time, you know, it could be this fight against Canelo where, you know, Canelo blows him out in 6 rounds. Who knows? I don't see it. I think Golovkin is still a very dangerous fighter from what I saw against Murata. And I think Golovkin is still going to be dangerous for Canelo. I am favoring Canelo to win the fight, but I still think Golovkin's a dangerous fight, and I definitely would make him favorite against Charlo and Janabek. Andrade, for me, would be a 50-50 fight at this point, just because I think Andrade's style, boxing and moving, could cause him issues. But again, you know, I think Golovkin would have a great chance in that fight as well. So I think the middleweight division is right now weak, and I don't think Golovkin should leave because there's an opportunity for him to make some money, because the Charlo fight will be a big money fight, and it would be an opportunity for him to grab all the belts. So I definitely think that Golovkin should definitely consider staying on if he performs well. Depending on how he looks, I would love to see Golovkin stay in the sport and look to become undisputed. But again, it all comes down to how Golovkin looks, because he is old, he's not young, he is past his best, let's be honest. He's not the fighter he once was. But he still is a hell of a fighter. He still is a championship level fighter, and he still is a fighter, in my opinion, that is very, very dangerous for anybody in the middleweight division. But, you know, he's getting an opportunity in this fight against Canelo Alvarez to grab all the belts. If Gennady Golovkin beats Canelo Alvarez, there's no reason there's no reason that Gennady Golovkin, he should just retire, because that would be the best way for Gennady Golovkin to leave the sport. That would be the best way for... Imagine becoming undisputed at super middleweight after your illustrious career at middleweight, beating your rival, beating your bitter rival, right? I think that would be the best way for him to call off his career. I think there's no amount of money would be enough, in my opinion, to lure Golovkin back. Maybe they'll do a Canelo fight, but why give Canelo the opportunity again to potentially beat you when you've beaten him and a lot of people thought you won the first 2 fights, or you especially won the first one? So this is why Golovkin should probably call it a day. But again, money money can lure people back. So yeah, leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.